Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're looking at an art installation. And,
An art installation?
yeah,
Okay.
it's proposed for New York City's Audubon Terrace. So not just like a pretty statue, we're talking art activism history, all rolled into one big statement about conservation.
And the location itself is fascinating. Audubon Terrace might seem like all concrete and museums, but it was once a haven for monarch butterflies.
Oh, wow. So we're celebrating Audubon the nature guy in a place that's basically the opposite of what he stood for. It's kind of ironic.
It is. And those monarch butterflies, they're facing extinction, habitat loss, all that. So this installation, it's not just about looks, it's about sending a message.
A message, all right. So we've got piles of notes, proposals, emails, the whole shebang. Our mission, if we choose to accept it, is to dig through it all and find the golden nuggets, the best ideas for this art piece.
Sounds like a challenge.
Oh, it is. That's
Yeah.
a fun one, right?
Yeah, definitely.
The first thing that pops out to me is this idea of a lost narrative. Like the installation is trying to bring back a piece of Audubon Terrace's history that's been forgotten.
And the monarch butterfly itself embodies that lost narrative. Their migration thousands of miles from Mexico to Canada, it's becoming more and more fragile as their habitats vanish.
So we're trying to reconnect those two stories, the monarch's journey and the history of Audubon Terrace, showing people that nature was a much bigger part of our cities than we realize.
And it can be, again, even in small ways. Some proposals focus on creating a monarch way station within the installation, like a little haven with native plants that attract monarchs and other pollinators.
So it's not just symbolic, it's actually helping them.
Yeah.
I love that idea. Speaking of journeys, there's this interesting parallel in the notes between the monarch's migration and the movement of people, especially from Mexico to Canada.
Yeah, there's a lot about shared challenges in the sources. Displacement adaptation, the search for belonging. Both the monarchs and people who've migrated, they face environmental threats and the need to find new paths.
Makes me think about those ghost ships they keep mentioning. Could they be a way to represent those journeys, both human and butterfly?
Absolutely. The ships could symbolize the voyages that shaped this area, while also showing how fragile those journeys are in the face of environmental change.
So we've got these layers then, the past, the present, the urgency of conservation. And it seems like this installation needs to be interactive,
Yeah.
Get people involved.
Right. One proposal suggests using biodegradable tags within the way station. Visitors could write their thoughts about migration, belonging their connection to nature.
Wow, that's powerful. And the tags decomposing, returning to the earth. It's like a
Yeah.
whole cycle of life thing.
Exactly. It emphasizes that even small actions matter. Planting a milkweed plant can be part of a bigger movement.
Okay, so we've got symbolic ships, a living way station, a space for reflection. It's starting to feel like a real experience. But hold on, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're talking about New York City, right? We got to
Yeah.
be practical.
Yeah, for sure. Durability, weather-resistant city permits, all those things matter.
And those plant lists they provided, they've really thought this through, haven't they? It's not just about looks. It's about what will actually help the monarchs.
Right. Milkweed is crucial, for example. The caterpillars can only eat that. Without it, they can't survive.
So the art and the activism are completely intertwined. I'm already impressed by how much thought they put into this.
Yeah, me too. But we're just getting started. There's a lot more to uncover, like the challenges of designing for an urban environment and how this installation can spark a larger conversation about conservation.
We've got the foundation. Now let's dive into the details and see how we can turn these ideas into something truly amazing. Right, so back to Audubon Terrace. We talked about all the big ideas, meaning the history, but how do we actually build this thing? In New York City, no less.
It's always a challenge, isn't it? Making those big ideas work in the real world. It takes planning and being practical, too.
Yeah, especially with this location. It's a landmark, right? So permits, guidelines, all that fun stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The sources mention the Hispanic Society staff are involved, though, so maybe they can help with the red tape.
Here's hoping. But even beyond permits, there's practical stuff, too, like those ghost ships. They need to look cool, but also, not fall apart in the first windstorm.
Right. I've seen proposals using lightweight aluminum or steel for the ships. Durable, but you can still get that see-through kind of ghostly effect.
And they mentioned recycled mesh, too,
Right.
which fits the whole sustainability thing.
Definitely. And speaking of wind, that's a big factor here. It's a pretty exposed location, so we need to make sure these structures can handle it.
Some designs use perforations or mesh, let the wind pass through, like a sail.
Exactly. Strong, but flexible. We need that balance between art and actually, staying upright.
And balance is important for the way station, too. Those planters got to be arranged just right for the butterflies and for people walking through.
The plant choices are crucial, too. It's creating a whole little ecosystem that supports the monarch life cycle.
Yeah, they have a whole list. Swamp milkweed, purple coneflower, black-eyed Susan. Sounds pretty amazing.
And each plant has a purpose. They even talk about using plants that are meaningful to the monarch's migration, like the Oriamel fir trees from Mexico where they overwinter.
Oh, wow. So it connects back to those bigger ideas of migration and connection. I love how every detail adds to the meaning.
And it's not just plants. The way station design matters too. One proposal uses a spiral path, like the monarch's journey, and it creates a sense of, moving forward as you walk through.
Like a walking meditation almost, encouraging people to slow down and connect with nature.
And all around them, those fabric butterflies flitting and fluttering in the breeze.
Speaking of which, how do they make those butterflies work? I saw fabric triangles, bright colors, even attaching them to rods like little flags.
Yeah, it's a fun touch. Adds movement and playfulness. Imagine hundreds of colorful butterflies dancing in the wind.
It's a great visual. But what about pigeons? Won't they become a snack for the birds?
That's a good point. The materials have to be, at least somewhat pigeon-proof. Maybe durable fabric and some well-placed netting.
And we can't forget lighting. They have some cool ideas using solar power to light it up at night. Even a concave mirror to focus sunlight and project patterns, like celestial navigation.
Blending art and sustainability. And it ties back to those themes of journeys and exploration. But of course, any electrical work outdoors got to be safe and up to code.
Right. Don't want any accidents.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot. Practical stuff permits pigeons even. But we started with these big concepts: history, migration, conservation. It's a lot to balance.
It is, but that's what makes it so interesting. Right? Bringing a project like this to life takes vision, creativity, and definitely some practicality.
And a sense of humor, because things will go wrong. That's just how it goes.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But if we can laugh a little and keep that sense of exploration, the journey is just as important as the destination, right?
Totally. So we've talked about the what-ifs and the how-tos. But what about the why? What do we want people to take away from this installation? What impact do we hope it has? Okay, so we've talked about the details, the challenges, even pigeons. But at the end of the day, what's the point? What do we want people to feel when they experience this Audubon Terrace installation?
I think it's about sparking a sense of wonder, that connection to nature, especially in a city like New York. You walk through this space, those ghost ships, the way station buzzing with life butterflies everywhere. And you remember that nature is all around us.
It's more than just pretty butterflies, though, right? It's about how everything is connected. The monarchs migrating, people moving across borders, our own choices impacting the environment. It's all tied together.
Exactly. The installation is like a mini version of that. It shows us we're all part of this web of life, and what we do matters. Even small things can have big consequences.
So raising awareness, but also giving people a way to act on that, like with those tags where they can write their thoughts.
Yeah, it makes it personal. You connect with the ideas, think about what you can do to help, and then leave a little piece of that commitment behind.
Speaking of commitment, this all sounds great, but it takes money, right? To make it a reality.
Yeah. The artist gets a $10,000 honorarium, but that's just the start. Materials, fabrication, installation, it all adds up.
And we got to make sure it's all done ethically too, right? Sustainable materials, fair labor practices, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it undermines the message.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can't talk about conservation and then, use practices that hurt the environment at all.